All right, so Andrew Schulz can't speak on hip hop because he's a white man.
I never said that.
No, Rory's sitting right next to you.
So why can't Andrew Schulz speak on hip hop?
Because Andrew Schulz is not involved in the culture of hip hop.
Hot tea, hot tea, hot tea, hot tea, hot tea.
Now, hopefully, this is the last video I make about this Andrew Schulz joke. Now, on the recent Rory and Mar podcast, Mar was actually defending Andrew. Let's check this out. Like the video and subscribe. Let's get it.
I do understand somewhat of the outrage of people that are looking at this like, all right, Kendrick said something about you. Why are you making this a hip hop thing? Since if you just want to talk to Kendrick Lamar, talk to Kendrick Lamar. Why are you now trying to devalue hip hop, even if there is some truth in what he's saying? I don't think we needed Schulz to tell us that hip hop has had a misogynistic history.
What?
But why can't it be about Kendrick? Like I laughed when he said, I'll fuck you in a jail cell. I thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make love to you. I thought it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But I see why people are upset. What the fuck does Schulz have to say about hip hop when you're talking to Kendrick Lamar? Kendrick Lamar is not the face of hip hop, but he's not all hip. He's not all hip hop. What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
No, I think he spoke about things directly associated with Kendrick.
He did, but I think what people are more upset about is not him saying, well, I guess some people are upset that he said he'd fuck Kendrick Lamar. But the overall outrage I've seen is who is Schulz to criticize hip hop, and what does that even have to do with you and Kendrick Lamar? What?
That's always a slippery, because on one hand, Schulz has obviously supported hip hop.
How has he supported
Wait, hold
hip-hop?
on. I don't want to make this like I'm going against Schulz, but I have to give some. Since fucking when has Andrew Schulz given back to hip hop?
Well, you said she giving back. Do you think that Andrew Schulz has ever purchased tickets to hip hop shows? Do you think he's ever purchased hip hop music? Do you?
I actually don't think.
All right, man. Y'all, all right, dog.
Y'all
don't think Andrew Schulz has ever been to a hip hop concert in his life?
Cool.
Nobody in here thinks Andrew Schulz has ever been to a hip hop concert.
I don't think.
Yeah, of course.
No, he's been to 50 Cent shows last year. I don't think he paid for the ticket.
I'm not saying. I said supported hip hop.
Okay, supported is paying.
Andrew Schulz
think that he's spending money
Andrew
on
Schulz
hip-hop.
has a huge platform. Has he not supported artists in hip hop? Has he not spoken positively about artists in hip hop?
Oh yeah, probably.
All right, then. So why are we so now that he's speaking?
That's the line.
No, I'm not saying he's responded to somebody sending what he felt like was a direct shot at him on a record. This did not come out of the blue thin air. He's responded to a shot that somebody sent at him, and that's the problem with people. When you send a shot at somebody, you can't dictate then how they respond to that shot. So that's all I'm saying. I understand why people are mad at Andrew. That face talking about this culture, I get it. But he only responded because he was sent for.
I agree.
So let's keep that in perspective as well.
Was he not rightfully sent for, though?
Whether he was rightfully sent for or not, he was sent for. So he's responded to somebody sending a shot at him.
And I'm telling you, I have no real issue with him making the jokes back to Kendrick. I actually thought it was a hilarious rant. The second part that I'm saying, and what I think most people are outraged about, is who the fuck are you to put hip hop on trial? Who the fuck am I to put hip hop on trial? Like, what do you like? Yes, we all know hip hop has a misogynistic path, but who the fuck are you?
I think
like it has nothing to do with your back and forth with Kendrick Lamar.
I don't think it was more so about him putting hip hop on trial. I think he was directly putting the mirror up to Kendrick saying, "Look at the hypocrisy that you are speaking of."
And I'm
like, I can't make jokes about black women, but here's so the culture that you're a part of can disrespect, tear down, talk about, degrade, all kind of shit, and you're not speaking to none of that, but you're speaking to a joke that I
think
made?
it is fair to say that there has been evidence that hip hop has not supported black women, but as opposed to what? The world? Like, why is hip hop now the niche thing that we have to say is misogynistic?
Nobody's saying that
the world is
niche,
misogynistic.
That's a fact, but nobody's
So what does that have to do with your back and forth with Kendrick Lamar? I know he was saying
he was
a
responding.
white comic can't make jokes about black women, and he's saying, yo, but hip hop doesn't. Okay, you're going back and forth with Kendrick Lamar. From what I've seen, I don't know Kendrick Lamar. I don't think he's torn down black women.
No, I don't think so.
So what does Schulz reply in that?
You picked the wrong rapper
have
to try to
do
use
with
that.
what we're talking about. Like, talk to Kendrick. Has Kendrick been misogynistic? Tell me that. Why are you putting hip hop on trial? And if you want to put hip hop on trial for not protecting black women, put the world on trial for not protecting black women.
Right, but again, keeping it to the perspective on what this is, he's responding.
I mean, we're
he's responding
deep into something
in particular to a direct bar from this artist that was, he felt like, again, I don't think Kendrick said his name, but he felt like that was a shot at him.
It was.
Okay, so he responded to that in the way he responded. Yeah. Were points made in what Andrew Schulz was saying?
Sure.
That's all I'm speaking to. Points were made, but from who it's from, people have a problem.
No, but Rory's point is his points were made about the art form, not the person that attacked him.
Yeah.
No, he spoke about he spoke about his affiliations with people who have disrespected women, who have cases that they've assaulted. When Andrew Schulz spoke about all of that. He spoke about all of that in that rant. Don't just look at the clips. Go look at that whole thing. He directly, people that are directly affiliated with Kendrick, he spoke to.
We listen. We're Flagrant fans.
Yeah, I listened to Flagrant. I listened to the whole episode, and that's the thing. Like, there's clips going out, but he makes it's like a running. That whole episode is like a running thing of him jabbing at Kendrick, which I have nothing.
That's fine.
Yeah. He's totally well.
He fucking raps about you,
but it's
go
like
make jokes
it
about
runs
him.
throughout the whole episode. That clip does not do it justice enough. He really goes at it, but I don't know. Shit, why the fuck not?
And
why not what?
On it.
And we're also like micro analyzing a comedy rant. So like we're taking it a little too far, but I understand the outrage. Like I get why people are looking at him like, who the fuck are you to even bring up hip hop and its faults? That's all. If you want to bring up Kendrick Lamar's faults, that's fair because you guys have a back and forth. Like you said, Kendrick said something about him. He's allowed to reply any fucking way he wants. But what does hip hop have to do with this now?
So, all right. So on one hand, so Andrew Schulz can't speak on hip hop because he's a white man.
I never said that.
No, Rory's sitting right next to you.
So why can't Andrew Schulz speak on hip hop?
Because Andrew Schulz is not involved in the culture of hip hop. That's why.
Well, how is he not involved in the culture? I mean,
you mean what?
How is he not involved in the culture? Because he doesn't make music?
I don't think.
Just tell me. You can't say he's not involved in the culture and don't explain how he's not.
Andrew Schulz would 1000% be successful with or without Charlamagne. He is an extremely talented person. His success would happen no matter what. But he would not be in this culture had he not sat next to fucking Charlamagne in the beginning of his career. Schulz would have nothing to do with anything hip hop related if he was not sitting next to Charlamagne the God.
Yeah, but that's not fair because that's his life. That's what happened.
No, I know.
So then he is to what?
That's like me saying you would have nothing to do with the culture if Sha Money didn't hire you.
That's not true though. That's not true because Rory was raised in this culture. Like Rory.
To your point, I bought mad tickets.
But that's the difference. Like when people bring up white people in hip hop, right? And I'm all for gatekeeping culture. If you know Rory and you know Rory's story, Rory has been addicted to hip hop since he was a kid.
And you don't think Andrew Schulz has been?
With it. No.
How do you know
because
that?
I don't know.
When has he ever shared that? When has he ever shared his history?
He does that often on the show, and he grew up in New York City. Grew up here.
Everybody who grew up in New York City does not. New York City is not hip hop.
Listen to the show, like he does.
There's people in the Midwest.
You can't just say that.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know Andrew Schultz's origins.
Neither do I. And I don't want to.
I think, but that's the thing. Like,
but I can make an assumption.
They say often on the show,
we both can, but I'm not.
Everyone on that show.
You even agree with me, Demaris?
No, I'm just saying I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a part of the culture. I don't know his background. I don't know. He might have been fucking BMX riding, tagging, graffiti tagging.
That's Adam 22.
I know Adam was doing it. I'm saying Schulz might have been a part of that as well. I'm saying I can't speak to that.
Adam 22 or Schulz is more involved in our culture?
I don't know what Schulz has done. I can't speak to that. So I can't say he hasn't, because then something to come out tomorrow where he was doing all kind of shit in the early 90s that I had no idea about, a part of the culture, and then I'll look like I got egg on my face. So I can't speak to that.
You didn't know Schulz was a B-boy?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know much about Andrew Schultz's origin. I don't know nothing much about it.
Could have been B-boy.
So can we talk about, because I think this is a conversation that needs to be had, and maybe we aren't the people to have it, but fuck it, we're here. What makes someone a part of the culture? What makes it okay for someone to even comment on our culture and be looked to and given clips and given attention for it? What makes you a part of the culture?
I can't answer that because it's not my place to answer. I've
Smart
admittedly a fucking guest. I don't know who can say what. I'll listen to the people that can make those calls.
But also, like, if you listen,
I'm just commenting.
What makes anybody able to do that?
That's the question I just asked.
But anybody, whether not just Schulz, like particular, anybody, what makes them a part of the culture?
Now let's address the last thing they talked about before we move even further. To me, what makes you eligible to speak on the culture is when you make a contribution. That contribution does not have to be by rapping. It don't have to be with being fresh and looking like a rapper and wearing chains. Just if you are part of the culture. and you've spent time studying, enjoying, being a part of, just you know when you a part of it. See, it's not really something you can describe in words. It's a feeling you get when you know. Like, it's some white dudes, you talk to them for 5 seconds, you know that they're a part of hip hop. You know what I mean? You can tell their upbringing has something to do with hip hop. And you can say the same thing about anybody from any race, black, white, Caucasian, Indian, whatever. So I feel like if you can easily be recognized as somebody who's a part of the culture, then yeah, you can speak on it. I don't easily recognize Andrew Schulz as a part of hip hop. I don't give a damn how long he sat next to Charlamagne the God. And I listen to Brilliant Idiots. I don't listen to a lot about Flagrant. And yes, to me, Andrew Schulz knows just as much about hip hop as the average white person knows about Kendrick and Drake beefing. Do they know all the details? No, because they aren't entrenched in hip hop culture. But they know it was a back and forth. They know that Not Like Us is about Drake, and that's the kind of common knowledge that I'll give to Andrew Schulz. And of course, all of the knowledge that he got just from sitting next to Charlamagne the God, because obviously they did a podcast and certain topics would come up. And so I'm sure he's remembered some of the stuff they talked about, some of the weekly topics. Oh, this week, you know, Drake is beefing with Meek Mill. Oh, this week, this happened on, you know, Love and Hip Hop. And oh, this week something happened with Nicki Minaj. I'm sure he's regurgitated all of that information before, and that can make him seem like he's hip hop. But just because I can easily give all of that credit to Charlamagne the God, he has to do extra for me to say, okay, maybe you do know something about hip hop other than the weekly topics that you feel like you have to talk about because it's trending. And I think that's something a lot of y'all are missing. If you do a podcast, especially an entertainment podcast, it's certain topics you're going to have to talk about because it's trending. Do I like talking about this fucking weak ass joke that Andrew Schulz made? No, but it's trending, so we talking about it. But if y'all didn't pay attention to my channel and y'all didn't get the vibe that I'm a fan of hip hop, whether or not you think I know enough to speak about hip hop or whether or not you think all of my takes are the greatest, just because I would be making this video about this subject and this topic does not mean that I'm a part of hip hop or that I should be talking about the culture. I think the body of my channel can give you a perspective of who I am, not just one video. You see what I'm saying? And that's how I'm looking at Schulz. Just because you sat next to Charlamagne, just because you talk about hip hop topics weekly, that don't mean you hip hop. We saw Peter Rosenberg get his ass handed to him. And Peter Rosenberg is 1,000,000 times more hip hop than Andrew Schulz. Peter Rosenberg is a hip hop nerd, digging through the crates, listening to vinyls, old school hip hop, computer full of hip hop music, can tell you about every damn track on De La Soul album, on the Tribe Called Quest album. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Peter Rosenberg is hip hop. I don't think Schulz is hip hop, all right? I'm not going to keep going in circles talking about that. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree. Some of y'all probably watch more Flagrant than me, and you going to say, no, I think Andrew is hip hop and he can speak on the culture and I think he has a right, and that's fine. That's just my opinion. Now, regardless of that, I do think a big part of this hoopla about Andrew making this joke is, number one, like I told y'all, I didn't think the joke was funny. If the joke was funnier and more people thought it was funny, I think he would be okay. But number two, it's the fact that he's white. So his whiteness is going to play a part in the conversation I just had with y'all about how much people think he is hip hop, but also in the type of content or the type of material that he uses in his jokes. You know, if it's a race joke about black people, if he looks a certain way, he talks a certain way, or he's just simply white, yes, there's going to be people who are going to be offended by those comments. And it's people who would have been offended whether or not the joke was funny. They would have been offended whether or not Andrew was right about what he said, because, like I said, he's white. And some people don't like white people speaking on the culture in general. But as I told y'all, if you look like you got a hip hop background and you white, to me, you know, go ahead, speak on it. I wouldn't tell Eminem he can't speak on the culture. He's Eminem, okay? And I think Eminem would be M even if he wasn't a rapper. And Eminem is not the most, you know, hippity hop, slang using white guy, but he carries himself with a swag and he's knowledgeable about the culture. And I think that's easy to pick up. And, you know, I just think Andrew don't give off the hip hop vibe. And I know I keep going back to that. I just really don't think he give off that vibe. But yeah, you know, I'll admit, yeah, it's certain people who are just mad because the white boy said this and, you know, they feel like as a white man, he doesn't deserve to speak on the culture. That's true. Now, one thing I do want to say about this podcast, and, you know, I'm sure Rory and Ma don't listen to me, but that female who's on the show and she's behind the scenes, I don't know her name, but every time I do listen to this podcast, she is adding great commentary, and she needs a chair. She needs to be on camera. When you see Rory and Ma on camera, you need to see her. She need to be in the middle or sitting next to one of them, but she needs to be the third main mic on that podcast. She's quick, she's witty, she gives that, you know, black girl energy, but it's not over the top like a Regina King movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like Regina King movies because she just, you know, they make her too much like the mad, angry black woman. This girl on this podcast, she doesn't give that energy. It's like, you can tell she's speaking from a perspective where it's like, I believe what I'm saying. And I think that's a difference between their podcast and Joe's podcast, because Joe would have recognized that a while ago. She would have been a main part of the cast. You know what I mean? That's the one thing about Joe. He can kind of see talent and pluck it and turn it into something. And I'm not saying he's always successful with that, but I think Joe would have gave her a chance to do more on the podcast. And I want to see Rory and Ma make that decision, because I love hearing from her. And it's not because I always agree with her. I just think she's good at podcasting, you know? And to speak to one last thing Ma was saying about Andrew contributing to hip hop. What has Andrew Schulz contributed to hip hop? Not a goddamn thing. And I don't care if he did pay for concert tickets. You know, you can go to a hip hop show for entertainment. That don't mean you contributing to the culture. You know, we don't give that same credit to all of the white people who go to concerts. I don't know how many of y'all have come to this realization, but the majority of people who buy concert tickets are white people and members of the LGBTQ community. I repeat, most of the tickets at that Kendrick and SZA tour are going to be purchased by Caucasian people and members of the LGBTQ community. And we don't give that same credit to the Caucasians who buy most of the tour tickets and say now they get to be a part of the culture just because they went to a concert, or that they contributed to the culture just because they went to a concert. They might be contributing to that artist, and I'm sure that artist appreciates their fandom. But everybody who go to a Kendrick Lamar concert is not a super hip hop fan. And everybody who go to a Drake concert is for damn sure not a super hip hop fan. Some people might be there because they specifically just like Kendrick Lamar. That don't mean they like the whole art form of hip hop. So just because Andrew might have bought some goddamn tickets, just because he might have went to some shows or bought some albums or he paid for Spotify and Apple Music, that don't mean that he contributed to the culture. And I'm not a culture gatekeeper. I'm just saying it's nothing about him and that Antonio Banderas mustache that say hip hop to me. Okay? Let me know what y'all think about this. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.